everyone, and welcome back to the Low Side Podcast. This is a podcast where 2, sometimes 3 or 4 dudes gather around and talk about whatever is on their mind, mostly movies, but, sometimes we talk about other things, okay?
One day we'll talk about something else other than movies.
We might have another movie-related episode for you today. Of course, I'm Nate, and I'm joined with Sredy today.
What up, guys?
How are you doing, Sredy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Pretty good. I missed last week's episode. I was absent.
It was okay. I had a nice discussion with old Stevie Boy, who is absent yet again, even though that is partially our fault.
Partially, but I feel like, he was gone on his little vacations and ruined everything for us, so it's okay that we're doing an episode while he is stuck working.
Yes, he is working right now,
and
which is why he's not here.
And he is salty.
Yes, he is, and you know what? That's just fine.
It's okay, Steve. We love you. We know you're listening.
This episode's very movie heavy once again.
Yeah.
Steve, as you guys know, Steve doesn't always have a lot to say about movies sometimes. So, we'll get some goodies going here in the future back with him, but until then.
100%. Just the movie world is on fire this week.
Yes, so
one of our highest, or one of at least my most anticipated releases of 2018 came out. Hereditary.
Yep.
Tons of trailers.
Lots of trailers that Nate and I are going to be talking about this week.
So, Alex, why don't you give us a rundown of the show today? Sredy.
So, today's episode includes, we have one current event, a little sad, but we're going to be talking about the death of Anthony Bourdain. Afterwards, we're going to be talking about all the trailers that have come out this week. Apparently, it's trailer week.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is like a national holiday, but there's just all these trailers coming out this week. Like for movies you didn't think would come out back to back to back, but apparently, it's a new trend, which I'm quite all right with. Afterwards, I have the LSP, the Low Side Podcast local film plug. I have 3 movies to talk about today instead of the normal 5. I'm running out of material, guys. I need you guys to fill out that form. We'll get more into that here in a little bit. And then afterwards, the rest of the episode is going to be talk about Hereditary, which, Nate, spoilers?
Yeah,
spoiler discussion.
Yeah, because by the time this is posted,
yeah, it's long done.
Yeah,
so you've had your spoiler discussion.
You've had your chance to see it at this point.
Yes.
Of course, before we jump into the episode, don't forget to follow us on all of the social medias. We are at the Low Side Podcast on Twitter, Instagram. You can search that on Facebook, on YouTube. Also, if you want, the best way to probably listen to us is on iTunes or Google Play.
Which Google Play has been a little finicky. I don't know if it's just because we only post one episode at a time right now.
What do you mean?
I just haven't been able to find us on Google Play.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to look more into that here for those who are interested in Google Play. But definitely check out SoundCloud. We're also on SoundCloud.
True.
If you don't want to have to run the video in the background of your phone, if that's how you're listening to us. So get that SoundCloud app and check us out.
Yes. And of course, don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. It helps out a lot.
We need the reviews.
Please. I'm begging you.
5 stars.
I'm going to start mailing people money at this point to just review us.
Give us 1 star. We don't give a shit.
No. Give us 5 stars. Give us 5 stars.
But if you just review us.
Just drop a review. It takes 2 seconds. You literally have to write like a sentence. So
that's it.
Please do that for us. Of course, you can check out the archive of all of these episodes on our YouTube channel because, as you know, we run current episodes on iTunes because we are cheap bastards that don't want to pay for SoundCloud.
That's true.
And I am A-okay with having that title.
Absolutely. I did find something interesting. I was talking to Nate about this, but we can only upload 1 episode at a time, and I thought that our whole archive would be on the Low Side Podcast. However, that's not necessarily true. You can only find the newest episode that's currently available on SoundCloud. That's how we are distributing to iTunes. However, if you played one of our previous episodes, it will be on your iTunes library.
Huh.
You could just play a second of it. It will be there because I can play older episodes on my phone on
That's
iTunes podcast.
very unusual.
It's very unusual.
But
I don't know
hey,
if it's just for me, but you guys should try it anyway.
try it out and let us know. Add us on Twitter or something. Hit us up.
Hit us up.
So, yes, Alex, let's talk about some sad news today.
Yes, so today is June 8th, 2018. Again, we put out the episodes bi-weekly. I don't know the exact date that this one is coming out. So this news is going to be a little old, but it's something I did want to touch on. This morning, it was confirmed that Anthony Bourdain, who, as you guys may or may not know, is a celebrity chef who currently has a TV show called Parts Unknown on CNN right now. He was filming an episode in France when his celebrity chef friend, I can't remember who his name was, but he found him dead in his hotel room. The cause of death was not reported right away. It just was reported that he had died at age 61. However, later throughout the day, it was reported that he died from an apparent suicide.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer.
Massive bummer. I wasn't too familiar with Anthony Bourdain. Like, I knew who he was, and I know he's sort of like a celebrity chef, but I mean, it's always a bummer when someone takes their own life, and just because you know that help is out there, and I know I said this on the podcast before, but I'll say it again, and I'll always say it. It's just we need, as a society, to destigmatize, getting help for your mental issues.
Yeah.
It's like you always think of, like, could this person have been helped if they were willing to seek that help, and not have to feel like they're embarrassed or like their problems don't actually exist, because all of that stuff is clearly real. And it's really just heartbreaking at the end of the day that, this person could have potentially not killed themselves had they been able to seek help. And it truly shows that, no amount of money or fame or anything like that can really change how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I've personally been affected by suicide within not really my blood family, but somebody close within my family about, I want to say 5 years ago at this point, 5 or 6 years ago. So, I mean, it's definitely tough to go through something like that. I definitely agree with Nate with everything that he said about it. There's help out there. It's a shame that people feel like they're alone in these situations. It's definitely hard not to feel alone, especially when you're going through something mentally. I don't know much about Anthony Bourdain, but I'm sure I'm going to assume that he probably had a lot of similar issues that others have had in these kind of situations. So definitely get help if you're... We don't want this to be like a PSA on why you should live, why you should hit up these suicide prevention hotlines. You definitely should. You guys definitely should talk to people. I just wanted to briefly say how I feel about it. It's definitely a topic that's talked about a lot, because this is not the first suicide to happen this week, at least in the celebrity world, as we had Kate Spade. I don't know much about her, but she, I think, killed herself, or she was found dead on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, Monday or Tuesday. So, I mean, it's whether you're a celebrity or not. I mean, taking your life it sucks. If you're feeling suicidal or anything like that, you should definitely seek help, either from a professional. I know talking to friends and family is not always the best route to go, because it's hard to understand something like this. So definitely seek help from a professional, or call the suicide hotline. We will provide a number in the description. And that's really all I have to say about this.
Nice. And I'll just say that also, with situations like this, check up on your friends, check up on your family, even if they say they're all right. It never hurts to ask your loved ones, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Because some people don't want to talk about it, but if provoked, maybe they will. So,
and honestly, there's definitely signs. Like, I'm sure, like, people close to Anthony Bourdain, they probably saw it a little bit better than somebody like you or I, because we only see him on the TV. So of course he's going to appear happy or however his personality is. Like I said,
Right.
I don't know much about him, but definitely I agree with Nate. Check up on your loved ones.
True. All right, let's pick it up.
Yeah, let's go back up. Bring the energy back.
Yeah,
in.
let's jump into some trailer talk, Sredy. We had a bunch of really awesome trailers for some pretty big movies that are coming out later this year. That
I'm curious as to which ones you think are quote unquote awesome, because I have some thoughts about some.
Okay, I guess one of them I do genuinely think is awesome. The other two, I don't know.
All right, well, let's dive right into it.
Start us off. Which trailer do you want to talk about first?
I want to talk about the one that you and I mutually want to talk about the most last.
Okay.
I don't know what other trailers you've seen, because Nate and I are a little unprepared today. Did you see the Bumblebee trailer?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that?
Looks like a hot dumpster fire. And the thing that struck me the most with the Bumblebee trailer is, again, it seems like it takes place in the 80s, so it's going to be trying to...
I think it is set in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. I heard the Rick Roll song, the Rick Astley song, so I was like, okay, this must be 80s based. I was like half paying attention because I really could care less. But so they're going to be going for the heavy 80s nostalgia, which at this point to me, I just kind of want to roll my eyes at.
Yeah.
And also it feels like too little too late. Transformers is kind of on the down right now. Why didn't they release this movie after the first one or the second one or even the third one?
Were prequels really a thing back then? Or spin-offs really? I feel like spin-offs have really taken off maybe within like the last 5 or 6 years.
I mean, you kind of had X-Men, which I feel like was
it wasn't like as big.
Yeah.
In this culture as it was, because the original Transformers came out in 2007, I want to say, so 11 years ago.
Yeah, 2007 or 8.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's weird to me that Transformers 5 just kind of like shit itself out, didn't really do much. No one really cared about it. And now they're like, oh, now
jump back on that horse.
Yeah, now the Bumblebee movie is coming, because we've heard about this movie for a long.
Yeah,
I feel like
I feel like it's been pitched since the original one.
That's what I'm saying. Like when Bumblebee's popularity was banging and all of his toys and his T-shirts were selling out. Why not do it then? Why not fast track it then instead of poop it out now when no one cares?
Because nothing ever makes sense.
It's not Fortnite, so little kids don't care about it anymore.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like this movie is a little late. I'm going to say that I'm genuinely curious as to how this movie is going to go, because it's not a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, that is true.
It's not a Michael Bay. I want to see what a non-Michael Bay Transformers movie looks like.
Yeah, you know what? I guess I really didn't think about it like that. I was being a little harsh there.
Oh, no. I fully agree with you. It's probably still going to be... Damn it. It's probably still going to be a shit show.
Michael Bay just pisses me off. He's such an ass.
Yeah.
He's so self-aware. He makes shitty movies and he just doesn't care.
Yep.
Because he just gets paid anyway.
Something I was thinking about. Do you think that whole team is just in it for monetary reasons?
At this point?
Because the writer, Akiva I forgot his name. Goldberg, something like that. Goldman, I don't know. But he or she has written almost all of them. So I'm wondering if, because one of the things that they always say in Hollywood is bad movies come from good scripts. But you're going to have a hard time convincing me that any of the Transformers 2 through 5 were quote unquote good scripts when they came out. So, Sredy thoughts.
Shreddy's thoughts.
Shreddy's thoughts. Some things I think about.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. Like, this movie just... It seems like such a cash grab at this point.
I'm going to look up while you're talking.
So desperate to just remain relevant in the spotlight of superhero and Star Wars and big, dumb blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
I would say that they are definitely in it for the money at this point and have probably been in the money for it ever since the first one. The first one is probably the only one that's truly like a decent film.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely enjoyable. It's not overly long. I mean, at least it's entertaining.
And it's also one of those movies where I really liked it when it came out. I liked Transformers 1 a whole lot, and I'm choosing to keep my memory like that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm probably never going to watch it again.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm never going to watch Transformers 1 ever again, because I know I'm just going to pick it apart and be like, oh, this is not what I remember.
I'm just going to keep remembering our king/god, as we know it, Shia LaBeouf.
Oh,
I'm just going to keep his memory alive in that movie. Is how I saw him back in 2007.
And he was just a young man.
Just a young man.
No memes, no nothing.
No memes, nothing. And now he's our Lord and Savior.
Absolutely. So that was the Bumblebee trailer. That was sort of our thoughts on that. Did you figure out what you were looking up, Shred?
Yeah, they did not write it. It was a different writer. I don't know if they had anything to do with the other Transformers, but again, I don't care that much.
Okay, so maybe there's some hope for the Bumblebee movie that it's not going to be a steaming pile of cynical garbage.
Maybe.
But, it's probably going to be, so what are you going to do?
Yep.
Speaking of other children films, before we get into super dark, violent horror movies, the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse trailer, Sredy.
Oh, man. I'm ready to talk about that one for sure.
What did you think about that?
All right, backtracking a second. The director of the new Transformers directed Kubo and the Two Strings. I didn't watch that, but it was pretty well received. So
that was a really good movie. Made me cry.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tell you what I love about Spider-Man, at least when I was a kid. I really loved Spider-Man in general. I loved all the villains, and I really loved New York as like a backdrop for everything. I feel like the cartoons and all that really captured this, like, I don't know if magical is the right word, but this sort of magical aspect to New York City.
I feel like people that are our age, like, we kind of grew up in like a second golden age of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because we're in our mid-20s, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we had like Spider-Man the animated series. The 90s comic books were going crazy. I remember reading Spider-Man all the time. We had the Sam Raimi movies.
Yep.
So like Spider-Man, to me, and I feel like this is what you were trying to get at, is just like, he's like the hero. Like,
yeah.
you know how like probably our parents would say like Superman or Batman is like the hero for them. And granted, Spider-Man's pretty decently old himself in terms of a character, but I don't know. I just feel like something in the 90s and the early 2000s really blew Spider-Man up even bigger than he already was.
I can definitely agree with that. I remember, I want to say that Spider-Man, it was either Spider-Man or Batman, I can't remember, was like my first superhero experience.
Right.
So, that kind of has a special place for me. But watching this trailer made me feel like how I did back when I first got into Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm just, like, super hyped for this movie.
I personally am a big fan of Miles Morales. For those of you who don't know, this movie focuses on the second Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, who was created at probably about the mid-2000s. Brian Michael Bendis, obviously very popular comic book writer, wrote Ultimate Spider-Man with Peter, and then into it switching to Miles Morales when something actually very tragic happens in the comic book and Peter Parker straight up gets murdered.
Oh,
and then
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
And then Miles takes the reins as Spider-Man, but he's just a really great character, very charismatic. He's a lot younger.
Yeah.
In the comic book, I think he's like 12 or 13 when he first starts out, but I think he might be a little bit older in this trailer that came out.
Maybe. He seems like he could be like middle school age.
Yeah.
So he might be right there.
So I'm very excited to see Miles, the idea of an older Peter Parker, because we really haven't got to see the older Peter Parker that you see sometimes in the comic books, but we don't ever really see that in the movies or anything. It's always young guy, and he keeps progressively getting younger at this point. So it's cool to see like a Spider-Man with like kind of a deep voice, and it's the sidekick buddy from The Mummy.
Yeah, Jake Johnson from New Girl.
Yeah. So that was a little jarring at first when I heard him as Peter. I was like,
you know what? I had to go back and watch like midway through. watching this is the second trailer, I think.
Yeah.
I think the first one might have just been a teaser.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hyped for it when I saw the first one. But I had to stop it midway through because I'm like, wait, is he playing Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Like Peter Parker? So I had to go back, look up on IMDb, and confirm it before I could finish it. And then I had to restart it so I could really grasp everything that was going on because I didn't catch it right away. Because I was it is very jarring.
It is weird. And Peter has 5 o'clock shadow. He's clearly very established. It seems like he takes Miles under his wing.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a really interesting take on the whole Spider-Verse story. It's called Into the Spider-Verse, which is a recent comic book event that just happened where a ton of different Spider-Man variations throughout the years, new ones, old ones, fan favorites, all like came together in like a big mashup.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping at the end of the trailer we got to see Spider-Gwen, which is from an alternate universe where Gwen Stacy is Spider-Man, or I mean technically Spider-Girl. So
yeah.
I hope they do some more of like the wacky Spider-Man characters. Like there's like a punk rock Spider-Man who has like a jean vest and like a mohawk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like like futuristic Spider-Man like 2099 or Ben Reilly. The different variations that aren't Peter Parker. I hope we get to see some of that in this movie.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's different, a little bit. It's different, but not at the same time.
Yeah, I love the colors too.
Yeah,
the colors in the trailer look very bright and vibrant. I'm already thinking about watching that movie on 4K Blu-ray with the HDR on and just seeing how like
Wait,
crazy.
You don't want to see DVD?
No,
not
this time. But and I really like the art style. It's cartoony, but it's like I don't know. I enjoy it.
It's strange. It almost makes it feel like it's a little like direct to DVD-ish until you start getting those like New York details and you're like, oh shit, like this is legit.
And like you look closer and sort of like the way it's animated, it's like a little framey. Mm-hmm. So it kind of almost has like this weird like it feels like a comic book for whatever reason. I think there's like the little like comic book art dots everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely took a lot more of the comic book approach in this and some of the stuff that we've seen before.
Yeah, but this movie just looks like a lot of fun. Looks like it's going to have some nice heartfelt moments between Miles and his dad.
If I'm not mistaken, it's directed by our boys Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Is it really?
I think so.
Huh.
I'll fact check right now.
Yeah, get us a quick fact check in here.
No, nope. False news. They're producers.
Ah.
So I mean, it's
All right.
Well. Sorry. So we checked. We checked. We fact checked. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are not directing. However, they are producing it, which is still pretty awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully they can maybe throw in a little bit of their charm because obviously the Lego movie is fantastic.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting the Lego Movie 2 trailer here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I thought it was coming out this week, on top of the clusterfuck of other trailers that were coming out, but
it's probably like coming out right now or something while we're in the middle of recording this. So we'll talk about it in 2 months. And by that point, the movie will almost be out.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be good timing though.
Yeah. Hey, and we're just now talking about the trailer, guys.
You know what we should do actually? See if anybody notices. We should just start reviewing movies that haven't come out and just see how close we get.
That's not a bad idea. That would be really funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to move on to the next trailer, Alex? What are we going to talk about now?
I'm trying to debate on which one you want to talk about more. Do you have any? Okay. So we have 2 horror movie trailers that are coming out. Are there any other trailers that have come out this week that you're interested in talking about?
No, I have the only 2 left for me are Suspiria and Halloween.
Okay. I do have one that I just thought of. It is the Bradley Cooper directed movie A Star Is Born. Did you watch the trailer for that?
I didn't watch the full trailer, but I already knew I wanted to see this movie because if you know me in real life, you know that I'm actually unironically a huge Lady Gaga fan. I really like her music. So I was already on board to see the movie because I watched half a season of American Horror Story just because she was in it. So, I think that she's a pretty good actress.
I've never seen her act. I am never going to watch American Horror Story.
Yeah, it was bad.
I feel like my life is going to be much better if I don't.
Definitely.
But I really respect her as an artist.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to this movie. It's pretty much got everything that Sredy ever wants in a movie. I also really like Lady Gaga as far as like her music and stuff like that. So you already know that she's bringing that banging voice.
Yeah.
Apparently, Bradley Cooper has a banging voice too.
Right.
It's a movie about music. I love movies about music, and I'm pretty biased towards them, even if they suck or are kind of the same.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna watch it, and I'm probably gonna love it.
At least this movie, we don't have to worry about it falling into the biopic trope.
Yeah, because I don't think this is based on anybody.
I don't think it is.
It probably is, but
and I
at
think
least not anybody that I know of.
Bradley Cooper's directing this movie too.
Yeah, he directed it. I'm not sure if he wrote it. What else? The cinematographer that's on this movie is probably Nate's favorite cinematographer. It's Darren Aronofsky's usual cinematographer. So that was sarcasm, by the way. I forgot how to say his name. It's Matthew Libataki, I think is his name. But all of his movies look fantastic, and this movie is no exception. I can already tell that he's going to have my pick for best cinematography this year, and I'm going to be really pissed when he doesn't win.
Yep, but that's how it's probably going to go.
Yeah. So I already know I'm going to love this movie. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I can't wait until November when it comes out.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited too. I don't feel like I need to watch a trailer because I was already in the minute she posted on her Instagram that she was in another movie. So I was like, all right, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk
Suspiria
about
or Halloween first.
Let's do Suspiria first. Okay. It's a little bit of the lesser known. Not a lot of people have seen the original outside of people who are into the horror community. We did a review. We did a Shreddy's take on Suspiria because you recently just saw the original for the very first time. And I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on the trailer, so I'm going to throw it your way.
All right, you guys ready for my super insightful thoughts?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, I have no idea what to think of this trailer.
Okay.
That's really all I have to say about it. They give you nothing to go with on this trailer.
They don't give you anything, especially story-wise. However, I will say right off the bat, the first thing you notice is that this movie has next to no color in it at all, which is very
saturated, faded look.
It has a very Conjuring-esque look.
Yeah.
Like Suspiria looks like it's going to take place in the 70s or something, but I'm not 100% sure what time period it's going to be in.
Yeah, because they're never going to give us any details until the movie comes out when we watch it.
Which is fine.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
But there's like old cars in the background, so that's what's making me think that it still takes place in the 70s or maybe the 80s or something. But the original Suspiria is known for its colorful palette throughout the whole movie. It is a very visually pleasing movie, very bright, vibrant colors. So right off the bat, when you're seeing this dull, dark, grim trailer, you're just kind of like, what's going on?
Well, I wonder if that was purposely done. Because I don't think Luca something Italian probably didn't want to just straight up rip off of Dario Argento.
Right.
Because he's got his unique style.
Which he definitely did. I read an interview on Bloody Disgusting where he mentioned that his version of Suspiria was going to have no color in it, and that it was also pretty much going to have next to nothing to do with the original plot of Suspiria. So with those two things in mind, with him saying that and him just kind of, he's been dancing around. He doesn't refer to his version of Suspiria as a remake.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of, from what he says to me, it sounds like he's kind of saying it's a movie that's just inspired by Suspiria and sort of has the same very vague girl goes to dance school, supernatural things happen at dance school.
Maybe almost it takes place just in the same universe, possibly. Maybe not necessarily the same things happen, but just kind of takes place in that world.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then when it gets to that point and I hear him saying these things, I'm just like, why even bother calling it Suspiria then? I feel like horror as a genre right now is probably bigger than it's ever been. There's tons of people that are into horror movies. The Blu-ray community is really into the like collector's edition of horror movies that are coming out more than ever. And I feel like a movie with this premise could have done well on its own without having to name itself Suspiria so that you get people like me interested. I feel like I'd be more interested if it wasn't called Suspiria.
There's got to be some reason. That's really all I can say about it.
Well, yeah.
There's got to be some reason why
it's a recognizable
it's in there, yeah.
movie, so people will go see it. Even though I'm like, Suspiria is not that much, like, it's not on the level of like Halloween or something, like. So I feel like the brand for itself is, it's strong for diehard horror fans, but to your average casual horror fan that really doesn't care, they probably don't know what Suspiria is. So I'm just confused as to why they would even bother, because it just looks so drastically different, and it's trying so hard to be different.
Maybe he just really likes Suspiria. And he's got that Bill Murray attitude where he doesn't give a shit about anything, so it's his way or the highway.
True. Which, I mean, he does seem like he's a big fan of Suspiria. I just wish he could have made a movie that was sort of like a tribute to Suspiria and didn't have to be called that. Yeah. Because then you just automatically add unnecessary expectations to your film by calling it Suspiria.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm glad that they're not trying to emulate Suspiria, because there's no possible way you could remake that movie and have it even anywhere near as good as it was. So I think Suspiria is one of the hardest movies to remake, so I understand why it's so different, but at the same time, I don't know.
We're not going to know until the movie comes out, right?
Yeah.
All
so...
right.
I'm lukewarm on the trailer, although I'm obviously still gonna see it, no matter what. So
for sure. All right. Last but not least,
the big boy.
We got our Blumhouse sequel. Is that what they're calling it?
It is a sequel, yeah.
Sequel, but it's for Halloween.
Right off the bat, if you are going to erase Halloween 2 through Resurrection from the canon and act like only one happened, why is this movie called Halloween? So the first one, I'll watch Halloween, and then I'll watch the sequel, Halloween. Like, what? That's so stupid. Like, I know it's like kind of trying to be a soft reboot, but like, come on.
Yeah.
Call it Halloween, the night he came home. Whoa, I just did it right there. Look how easy that was. I don't know.
Nate's got some thoughts about the titles, guys.
I'm just annoyed because I'm also a giant fan of Halloween 2. So I'm salty as hell that they would take Halloween 2 specifically out of canon.
All right, let me ask you this real quick. Do you remember, since you're such a big fan, I don't remember how it ended. Mm-hmm. What happened at the end of Halloween 2?
Halloween 2 ends with Michael catching on fire, and Dr. Loomis also catches on fire. They're in the hospital room, and Laurie and Dr. Loomis are like leaking gases into the air, and they ignite it. There's like a big fire and a big explosion. So like Michael's presumably burnt alive, and Dr. Loomis is presumably died from the explosion. But obviously all of that's undone when Halloween 4 happens.
Right.
So the movie kind of ends like that.
Okay, so I'm a little confused by this trailer. I should have watched it again beforehand.
I've watched it like 5 times, so I got you.
Okay, did they mention how he's been in a mental hospital since the first one?
Yep.
And that how did he get there? He disappears at the end of the first movie, so they're ignoring the first movie too.
Yeah,
aren't they?
To a certain extent. I mean, I guess they're going to have to retcon the end of Halloween 1, which sounds like a fucking nightmare if you ask me.
Maybe like right before, like a week before this movie comes out, they actually remade the first Halloween.
Yeah.
So all of their plot points for the second one will just match up with what they're doing.
There's really only 2 ways it could go. It could get retconned, which is pretty likely, or he's going to... Dr. Loomis is going to shoot him. He's going to fall down, and then he's going to get up and not be there. But he's going to get caught a short time later, maybe because he's full of bullets. So maybe he just like drops, into like a coma or like dead somewhere, and then they pick him up.
The first scene of that movie.
Yeah.
Where have we been?
Exactly. It's going to
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's going to be like Michael stumbling away, and he's going to be like bleeding everywhere probably. Then he'll pass out on the ground, and then they'll arrest him, presumably.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Let's talk about the trailer, I guess. I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I'm just like,
this trailer didn't really get me hyped for it. It got a lot of people hyped for it, and I think their only hype is that there's a new Halloween movie.
Agreed.
But this story is so strange.
It looks like a weird mix between Halloween 4 and Halloween H2O.
And with a little bit of Rob Zombie Halloween in there.
Yeah,
except where Michael is... we see him in the mental hospital, ahead of time instead of later.
I was getting a little uncomfortable with those Rob Zombie vibes I was feeling. I was like, whoa, what is going on here?
I hope Rob Zombie didn't take a pseudonym and is actually David Gordon Green.
Oh, it probably is true. Yeah, like the ferociousness of Michael really seemed to emulate the Rob Zombie movies. Like in the trailer, you see him walk over to a bathroom stall and he drops all those teeth, and then he starts banging his head on the door.
That scene was in the Rob Zombie one too,
right? In
they just took the Rob Zombie movie and just cut scenes.
And that scene also happens in H2O. It happens in it's like they're taking iconic bits throughout the whole franchise of Halloween and just mashing it into one movie. And the thing that I'm really nervous about is that it's a Blumhouse movie, and we know how Jason Blum loves his fucking jump scares, and you can just tell from the trailer that there's going to be a lot of them. And for the 100th time, Halloween is not about the jump scares.
Yeah.
There's very few, and they're pretty subtle to begin with. And this movie seems like they're just taking the normal modern horror route of big, loud noises every 10 seconds. Jump, jump, jump. That's what's scary.
Yeah. I'm wondering how Jason Blum is going to handle this one, because has he done any other franchise movies?
Maybe. Well, I mean,
can't think of any off the top of my head.
Probably not classic franchises, because the only places that have really remade a lot of classic stuff was Platinum Dunes.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because for those of you guys who don't know, Jason Blum is the founder of Blumhouse, which, if you don't know who Blumhouse is, just turn on any horror movie that's come out in the last 5 years and you'll probably see a Blumhouse logo on it. He gives a lot of creative control to directors.
Wasn't Get Out a Blumhouse movie?
It was a Blumhouse movie. So you got some really, really good bangers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Split was a Blumhouse movie too. I'm not 100% on that.
I think so.
I think it was. But he gives a lot of creative control to his directors because they do all these movies for $1.
Right.
So I feel like he probably gave... And David Gordon Green is not a unknown director. He's done quite a few things. He's probably unknown to the casual moviegoer because he's not a household name per se, Spielberg or anybody like that. But he's helmed, if I'm not mistaken, Green Hornet. Is he the one who directed Green Hornet?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, shit. But he's directed quite a few things. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I could have swore that he worked... Or no, maybe it was Pineapple Express. I think he's the one who directed Pineapple Express.
That might sound a little bit more plausible.
So he's directed quite a few movies. He definitely knows what he's doing. So I feel like... Who else was involved in this movie? Wasn't it Bill Hader or...
It was Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride. I feel like these people would probably respect the original enough to not do something weird with it, but currently my faith within the trailer is not very high per se.
Yeah. Looks pretty generic, honestly. There was a couple interesting shots I liked at the beginning. I like
his look.
Yeah.
I mean, his look is fine.
The mental asylum look, I thought it looked pretty cool. It kind of had a surrealistic vibe with the checkered pattern outdoor area.
Yeah.
My main issue with this movie is why on earth would they let a documentary film crew come interview Michael Myers and let them show him his old mask?
That was a little silly.
That, I feel would not ever happen. That makes it's just kind of unbelievable, and it's pretty obvious they're going for like, you know, the grounded approach to Halloween, somewhat. So that part is just a little bit hard for me to believe, and then it's like, oh, of course he escapes, of course he comes after Laurie. It's like we've seen this so much at this point that it's almost like it feels like we've already seen this movie to a certain extent.
We probably have.
Between Halloween 1, Halloween 2, H2O, and the beginning of like Halloween Resurrection. This movie just, it feels like we've already been here. Like I was calling it on, and I've seen a couple people refer to it online as just calling it H4O instead of H2O, because that's honestly what it feels like. It just feels like, oh, we did H2O, and that was 20 years after the original. Now we're doing H4O, and that's 20 years after, or it's 40 years after the original now.
Did H2O come out 20 years ago?
Came out 20 years after the original. So yeah.
So what was that compared to right now?
That would be 1998. Fuck. Yeah. Right. And you were right, by the way, about David Gordon Green. He directed Pineapple Express, other hits like Your Highness and The Sitter.
Okay, so there's some skepticism there.
Yeah. Pretty much looks like almost exclusively comedies up until this point. So who knows?
Yep.
But yeah, the movie just feels like we've been here before. And I don't want to sound like I'm hating on it, because I'm definitely excited. I'm obviously going to go see it. It's a new Halloween movie.
Yeah.
That will pretty much, if it's a new Friday the 13th or a new Halloween movie, I'm showing up. So
their opening night.
Here's my other big complaint, or not a complaint, but my worry. How much of this movie do you think Michael is going to spend unmasked?
That's a good question. Well, I feel like pretty much probably the first act. I feel like the first act is them going to, like, that documentary crew that you mentioned of, going to trying to interview him. He's going to get pissed off at the mask. And then the Act 2 break, he's going to escape and Halloween shenanigans pursue.
And somehow gets his mask.
Right.
And then, yeah. Also, how's that mask in such great shape, man?
Maybe they
bullshit.
Took it to a museum and preserved it.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I saw a picture online of the original mask that they used during the shooting of the movie, what it looked like today.
Yeah.
And it's like all beat to hell, like like almost like borderline, like you can't even do much with it. It's just deteriorated.
Jeez.
So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, pretty skeptical, honestly, about the Halloween trailer.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it, but this trailer definitely did not ease my nervousness about it.
Yeah, it's pretty weird that I sort of flip-flopped on my opinions. Like, I was really nervous about Suspiria, and I was like, oh, Halloween's going to be a breeze. It's going to be a knockout. Like, Jamie Lee's back. And now I'm kind of like, Suspiria looks pretty decent. Looks like it's going to do its own thing. And I'm worried about Halloween now. So, yeah, cautiously optimistic, I suppose.
Yes. All right. And that's it for trailers that have come out. I'm looking forward to some new stuff coming out here within the next couple of weeks, hopefully, or at least by the end of the summer. Moving on to our next bit, we have the Low Side Podcast local film plug. For those who don't know, I am a filmmaker myself, a local filmmaker in the Chicagoland region. I understand what it's like to not have people give a shit about your movie. So I'm going to let all of you know I give a shit about your movie.
Sredy gives a shit.
Sredy, hashtag
Sredy gives a shit. That's a good one.
Yep. So basically what I do here is I have a sort of form that you can fill out online. If you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, anything like that, I post links frequently to those platforms. And basically you just fill out the form with some basic information about your project. It could be a short, a feature, a web series, just a trailer. I don't really give a shit. Send it to me and I will give it a shout out here on the podcast.
Boom!
Yep, I will post a link for the form in the description below, as well as links or to trailers or your guys' websites, YouTube pages, whatever will also be in the description. But we'll get into that more once I start talking about each of the individual projects. So first up, I have this is kind of a plug for myself, but not really,
Heyo.
because it's for a project that I worked on. It's a web series titled Unconditionally, written and directed by Alaithia Velez, coming out of Chicago. She doesn't live in Chicago anymore. She's actually based in Austin now, but I know she's looking to potentially do a season 2 eventually. But basically, this web series is it's comedy, but it's also fantasy, has some sci-fi elements, deals with aliens. Just throwing that out there. Stars Alaithia as the title role of Laith. I'm very sorry if I'm chopping up your name, Felipe, but I think it's Felipe Jorge. That really rolls off the tongue. Not sure if it's Felipe George or Felipe Jorge. And then Margaret Kellis. It is a 6-episode web series running at about 8 to 10 minutes per episode. It is about Laith, a young woman who suffers from anxiety and is caught between fantasy and reality, and all the people in her life who love her unconditionally. I'll be posting a trailer link in the description. Make sure you guys go check that out. But where can you find it? Well, friends, you can find it on Amazon Prime.
Heyo.
I have a show that I shot and directed, or not directed, shot and edited, that is on Amazon Prime. So you guys should definitely check that out. Look for the picture of the weird girl in a mermaid outfit. That is the picture that will pop up when you search Unconditionally on Amazon Prime. And the interesting fact is, as I just mentioned, I was the cinematographer and editor on this project.
Nice plug, bro.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Next up is also a project by my... No, I'm just kidding. Next project is from our boy, Radomir Jordanovic. I'm sorry again if I'm chopping up your name. He told me that I was very close on the pronunciation. This guy is from Serbia, which is really interesting because my last name is Serbian.
Hey.
So I understand people fucking up Serbian names.
Yep.
But anyway, it's a short action film. I was going to watch it before we did the podcasts, but I did not, so I'm really sorry, Radomir. I will definitely be checking it out here pretty soon. But it's called Naptown Voice. Or sorry, Naptown Voice. Naptown Vice. It's about 30 minutes long. He told me that there's too many actors to name in it. Please see the credits. So definitely check it out. I'm not sure if it's on IMDb, but if not, check out the end of the credits of the short. It's about 2 detectives who have one problem. Their problem is everything, and cocaine doesn't stand a chance. The full movie is on YouTube. I'll be posting a link in the description below. And where else can people find this, as well as Radomir's other projects? It is on his Facebook page titled Custom Made Name. I know that's a strange name, but I'll be posting a link for it in the description just so you guys don't get it confused. Interesting facts about this. The Facebook version is uncensored, so I'm going to guess that this movie's a little risque, maybe.
Heyo.
Got some elements.
Surprised Facebook would let an uncensored version of the movie float around.
I'm really curious as to what an uncensored version of this movie would be like, because why would you do a censored version on YouTube?
Well, maybe he has ads on it.
That's true. That could be a thing.
Yeah, because YouTube is pretty tricky with violence nowadays.
That is true. Oh, I do know why. He said it shows a man's buttocks and a surprising amount of hair.
Huh.
So that could be the reason. Maybe YouTube is just not into
Dude
man
butt.
hair. Yeah, dude butt and man hair, which is very unfortunate.
WTF YouTube.
Yeah, WTF YouTube. And then last up we have he didn't tell me if this was a short or feature, but the title of the project is called the Sentinel Chronicles 371, directed by Jay Welin. We talked about one of his, like I said, it was either a short or a feature on I think it was the last podcast. It stars Clark Spalding and John Stottman. It is about the journey of a clone that death is just the beginning. You can find the trailer in the link below, but this will be distributed through Open Sign Entertainment. They usually distribute through Amazon Prime, DVD and Blu-ray, so definitely check that out whenever it comes out. I will update the links whenever he gets some updated information on that. And the interesting fact that he had to tell me about it is that this project was made in an attempt to employ every layer of visual effect in camera, digital, and miniatures, which there are use of miniatures in the trailer. It's interesting.
Cool.
So definitely check that out. So that's all I have from people who aren't me. So I'm going to do my own plug here really quick. For those who don't know, like I said, I am a filmmaker, and I made my first feature, Cashing Out, a crime drama. I don't have a release date on that, but I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of the summer. I'll be doing some film festivals. I'll probably do a local premiere and things like that. You guys can check out the trailer in the description below. I'm saying description below a lot today, but when you have a lot of shit to put in the description, that's just kind of what happens.
It's the phrase of the day.
Yes. And then this episode, of course, is sponsored, but not really sponsored, by our unofficial sponsor, not sponsor, Cashing Out film merch. You can check out all of my film merch that I'm selling at bit.ly/cashing out store. I got t-shirts. I got hoodies. I got signed posters. Buy my shit, people. I need the money. I need the money to finish the film.
I'm still waiting on my check from Cashing Out.
He's still waiting on his check from Cashing Out. Nate's wearing his Dead Meat Cashing Out shirt today.
Yeah.
So he's definitely representing the film, and which I appreciate. So guys, check that out. At least watch the trailer. Share it with all your friends and family. We need this thing to blow up.
Blow it.
Blow it up.
Blow it up.
All right, and moving on to our last topic, which is usually our middle topic.
Yep.
We're going to do Shredy's take of Hereditary.
Ooh, the brand new A24 horror film.
Yes, so
one of my most anticipated releases.
Yes, so this movie came out of Sundance of this year, and it was a hot topic issue. You could not stop hearing about this movie ever since January when it first premiered.
Mm-hmm.
These kinds of movies always scare me. Not because the movie itself is scary, but when there's so much damn hype around a horror movie, it's hard to really buy into that.
Yeah.
But our boys and women over at A24 bought the distribution rights. I don't know if I'm going to guess they probably didn't pay for the budget. A lot of people were saying online about how A24 fronted the bill for this movie. It's not necessarily true because they're just a distribution company. So basically how this works is a production company will either try to find financing or they'll finance the movie by themselves, and then they'll go to festivals or, just straight up go to the distributor. Usually with these indie movies, they'll pick up distribution through a festival, and I'm pretty sure that Hereditary picked up distribution from A24 either before or after Sundance. One of the two, I'm not really sure. But yeah, let's get into it, Nate.
Let's do it. So this is your take. So do you have some notes you want to go off of, or are we just doing this off the cuff here?
We are going to have to do this a little bit off the cuff because, all right, so Nate and I watched this last night.
Same show,
by the way. I had no idea that you were in that show.
I tried waving at you, but I don't think you
I did not see
or whoever you were with saw me. I was like, hey.
Okay. Yeah, I was with some friends and whatnot.
It's okay. Shreddy's too cool for me.
Yeah, Shreddy's too cool for Nate. No, I was just, man, I've been so tired these last couple of weeks. I'm just like...
Fuck it.
But yeah, I've been very tired, so didn't mean to blow off Nate. I would blow off Steve, but not Nate.
No.
But anyway, so Shreddy's take on this movie. I don't 100% know how to feel yet, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I'm debating on how much I loved it because I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this because I watched the Out of the Basement video before I went into this podcast just so I had an idea of what you guys thought about it beforehand.
Hey-o.
Yep. So a little plug there for Out of the Basement. Make sure you guys are checking out Nate and Justin, who has been on our show before. Check out their video on their spoiler-free review on Hereditary. By the way, this is a spoiler discussion.
Yep.
Go watch the fucking movie if you want to listen to this. Or, just don't. Just have it spoiled. I don't give a shit.
It's been out for like 3 weeks at this point. Yep. At the time of this recording going live.
Yes. Now, I feel like there's so much stuff in this movie
Right.
that it's hard to really appreciate it right away. And this is the way I'm thinking about this is like, you know how a lot of the horror movies that we love today were just truly hated back when they first came out. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, Halloween was hated pretty much.
Halloween
Like,
was one of the most
I know
successful.
it was successful, but that doesn't mean people liked it.
I
know
don't
a lot
know.
of people. I know people hated The Shining.
Yeah,
I believe so.
that seemed to be the case.
Do people love The Exorcist? Because this movie's getting compared a lot to The Exorcist.
Yeah, The Exorcist was well received at the time, at least financially.
Yeah.
One of the highest. Well, was the highest grossing horror movie of all time until it.
Yeah. So I feel like this movie will one day be a classic. I don't know if movies can really be a classic right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that just kind of has to progress over time as people watch it and, you know, study it and analyze it and all that. But I truly think that there's something here from watching this.
Agreed. Right when the movie is sort of wrapping up and the payoff of the movie is happening, because this is an A24 horror movie, so expect a very slow burn.
Yes.
Very minimal
Very
scare.
slow.
And very minimal scares until the last, 20, 25 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, give or take.
It ramps up really heavy, but after watching the movie and then coming out and seeing the ending, I really was like, damn, I should have been paying closer attention to everything in the background.
I feel like, okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Nate's video here just because I already know a lot of his thoughts, and I have things that I try to look up based on those thoughts beforehand, and I had a lot of these thoughts even before I did that, but this movie is so detail-oriented that I feel like even within the movie universe, that I think everything happened intentionally. So I know, like, okay, so do you want to kind of go with this like beat by beat, or do you want to kind of just talk about one thing and go to another, or do you think we should like start from the beginning and go to the end?
I think we can just jump around. There's a lot that happens in the movie, but a lot of it I feel like doesn't really make sense unless you really get really deep into the spoilers. And even at this point, I'm still trying to think about the movie and piece together what everything was truly about. So it'd be kind of hard to do a beat for beat.
Okay. Yeah. Especially since neither of us have any notes.
Yeah.
None of us. Yeah. So basically, all right. So my first thought is what makes me think that this whole movie was premeditated from the beginning is, okay, so the main, well, she's not the main actress, the daughter, Charlie, she gets decapitated about 35 minutes into the movie.
Big shock.
Yeah, I was just like, holy shit.
And it's gruesome too.
It is very gruesome.
You straight up get to see the head.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so I've watched a lot of shock material back when I was a teenager. I watched a lot of horror movies. I don't watch as many horror movies because back when I was a kid, I was watching just horror movie after horror movie. I didn't really give a fuck about what it was. As long as it was a horror movie, I was watching it. And then when I got into high school, I started watching stuff just for the shock factor. So a lot of my friends would recommend A Clockwork Orange or recommend For a Dream, and those movies are really fucked up. So I watched a lot of movies that were similar to that. So I feel like I'm so desensitized to shocking moments like that in movies that I'm just like, meh. Yeah. Versus somebody who doesn't go see very many movies and then they go see something like The Bye-Bye Man and they're like, oh,
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually just, honestly, straight up, I bought The Bye-Bye Man on Blu-ray. I spent $2 on it.
Damn it.
And I watched it. It's really great.
I only mentioned that because you mentioned it. It's just fresh on my mind. But even you're not even like The Bye-Bye Man. Maybe if they watched a better horror movie like It.
Yeah.
They're truly disturbed by
Right. It. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought for a moment. So I'm very desensitized compared to the casual filmgoer who doesn't see a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of weirds. I've seen some weird shit online too. So that stuff doesn't really affect me as much. But this movie like severely made me cringe at points. Like that decapitation scene, like I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, it kind of just comes out of nowhere, and the situation that's presented in the movie, like a lot of the grief, the grandmother's dead right at the beginning of the movie, but the family's kind of just like, none of them are really talking about it. Everyone's just kind of like, whatever. Like, I don't feel that bad. But then when that happens, everything changes in the movie, and all of the characters are heartbroken and crying and screaming, and it's really different. It's a nice contrast, and something I really liked about the movie was how it kind of kept you on your toes as to like what was coming next. I only watched the opening trailer for this movie, and I didn't watch any other trailers. So walking into this, I was assuming it was going to be a creepy little girl movie. But then when the grandma was dead at the beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, ghost grandma movie. Here we go. It's going to be like a haunting. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be grandma possesses the little girl and then does crazy stuff. And then the little girl dies. And then I was like, okay, where's this going? Like, I was like, I'm out of options here. Yeah. What's next? And then I was like, okay, maybe like ghost of little girl is now angry. And then that doesn't happen either.
Yeah, that doesn't happen either. Like, you have no idea where this movie is going. And I know that's probably going to turn off a lot of people. I know it turned off Justin, if I'm not mistaken. Like that. And I'm perfectly okay with that. But, so there's this little detail. Like I said, this movie's so fucking detail-oriented. And I love movies that are so detail-oriented like that. But I don't know if you recall this, but do you remember when Peter was sitting in the classroom the very first time and they were talking about themes within a certain book that they were talking about? Like, do you just remember that happening?
Yeah, I remember that scene.
Okay. There is a quote. I don't know what the quote is. I just remember because I was reading... I don't read Reddit ever, but I read the Reddit discussion board for this movie before we did the podcast, just so I could, have some facts. But during that scene, they have a little nugget in there about, do you feel bad for somebody if you know what's coming? Something like that. Or, just something about how if something is premeditated, how bad do you feel, or something like that. But I know that had to deal with everything happening. Everything in this movie was premeditated. So based on what the little facts that I know, I feel like this movie in particular is a moment. Like the story of how Charlie becomes the what do you remember what the demon's called? The King of Hell?
It was like
Pagan?
Yeah, like pagan or pagan or
pagan. I think it's pagan.
Something like that.
I think Charlie was always pagan from the beginning. And I feel like it was either so a pagan can only take the form of, at least that's what they say, the form of a male, which is why Peter ends up being like the host of Charlie. But Charlie, there's some theories going around that Charlie was pagan from the beginning. That's why she was Grandma's favorite. If you notice that in one of Annie's miniatures, she's breastfeeding Charlie. Yeah. So I feel like she's just buttering up Charlie to become the pagan.
Right.
Right from the get-go.
Well, and also at the end of the movie, you see the grandmother's picture in a frame, and it says Queen whatever.
Yes. And
so he's the king. So presumably, I think that's a pretty sound theory that Charlie was the demon from the beginning, the demon king. Just because of how, like, nurturing the grandmother was and how the grandmother sort of wanted to, like, take care of this demon because she knew, possibly. Well, what it would seem, the grandma knew.
Yes, the grandma knew for sure. I think even Charlie knew, because if you notice, Charlie's like off
right
for the entire movie, and the only time that she's not off, like just kind of like strange, for lack of a better word, is when she is in Annie's body during the seance. Like, you notice that she's real panicky and freaking out and all that. That's the only time she's ever like that in the whole movie. Everything else, she's just being real strange, doesn't want to do anything. I mean, I think the first clue that she is the pagan is when she cuts off the bird's head.
Right.
I think that's our first instance, like, yeah, this is who this is. And I think that's what they were trying to tell us, or at least the writer-director of this movie was trying to tell us.
There's so much detail, even in like the miniatures themselves. Like every scene you see, you said Annie was her name?
The main character, yeah.
Yeah. Anytime Annie is crafting these miniatures, it's almost like it's trying to tell you it's giving you backstory to what's going on through visuals.
And the same thing was happening through Charlie's drawings.
Yeah.
Like she drew everything that happened later. Like the parents arguing. I don't know if she drew, I forgot his name. I think his name was Steve, burning alive. Might have. But pretty much everything that she was drawing was happening later in the movie.
Yeah. I thought, like, again, when the movie ended, I was just like, damn, I wish I would have been paying closer attention. Or like when Joni has the book open and you can read all about the king and like all about the stuff that's going on and like what he likes to do. So I really do want to like check this movie out again and be able to pay attention to those details.
Yeah, so another detail that I wanted to get to, talking about the decapitation again, I remember in your guys' review you were talking about how, why didn't they bring the EpiPen? Why didn't she pay attention that there were nuts clearly being baked into this cake? I think as soon as Grandma died, I think this is when she was truly able to start the process of making Charlie become the pagan. Because she wasn't able to do that when she was alive because of how protective Annie was. She was not going to let Grandma, I don't remember her name, or are we just going to call her Grandma?
Yeah, we can just call her Grandma.
She wasn't going to let Grandma near Peter, and she needs Peter's body in order to do this, because we know earlier that Annie's brother committed suicide, and I think it was her dad was a schizophrenic, if I'm not mistaken.
The dad starved himself and her brother killed himself.
Yeah, so I think both of those were intentional because both of them knew what was going on. My biggest question right now is how much Annie actually knew. If she knew that she didn't, I think she mentioned how she knew her mom was into the like witchcrafty stuff and things like that. I know she knew about it later, but I don't know how much she knew about it at this point, and maybe that's why she was so protective of Peter.
Right.
You know, from the get-go. But I'm thinking, like I said, I think that as soon as Grandma died and she was able to kind of roam around freely at this point, since, you know, in this movie, spirits are a real thing, that she was able to take more control of making this process. Because, I mean, the movie's truly about making Charlie become the pagan. Like, that's what happens at the end, is Charlie becomes the pagan. So it's, you can almost say, like, Grandma's the main character in a sense.
Yeah.
She's got this clear goal of making Charlie the pagan, and it's just bringing this family through this horrific hell to get there. But the point that I was trying to make as far as the decapitation is did you notice that the light pole had the symbol for the pagan on it? Yeah. You did notice that? Okay. So I'm thinking that she needed both of them to die, but only one of them ended up dying. So Charlie obviously gets decapitated. I'm thinking that maybe Peter was supposed to hit the lamb. I'm guessing that was a lamb, at least looking back on it. Sacrifice. So there's your little bit of...
It was a deer or something.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's clear that, you know, I feel like both of them were supposed to die in this instance. So it was kind of like maybe the EpiPen was either forcefully forgotten or maybe even taken. I'm not 100% sure. That's something I'm going to have to go back and look on. But I think both of them were supposed to die, so that way she was supposed to get decapitated. Because I think somebody pointed out that all of the women are decapitated in this movie. Do you know why they're getting decapitated, or why their heads are just...
I was assuming that it was something to do with like just a king beheading his subjects.
Not necessarily. So the pagan... It's a ritual for the I'm not sure if the females, but at least the followers, to basically cut off their heads, because he is the king of like knowledge and foreshadowing and things like that, and giving him your head is like your gift of giving him knowledge, essentially. So that's why they're doing it. I'm not necessarily sure why they did it with Charlie necessarily, but I feel like she needed to be decapitated, maybe even to free her spirit to get into Peter, potentially. Not 100% on that, but like I said, I feel like that was premeditated. Why that happened? I mean, it's obvious that it was premeditated. Why else would the symbol be on the light pole?
Right. Yeah, there's just a lot going on. And with that scene in particular, I think I was just more so annoyed that a 13-year-old girl would not be able to notice that there was nuts in the cake that was very clearly being made in front of her.
I almost feel like she was just kind of puppeted.
And she very well could have been. I wanted to mention the Annie's brother because he killed himself because the grandma was trying to put people inside of him. Do you remember when she said that?
I did not remember that.
Yeah,
but there you go.
That's why he killed himself, was because the grandmother was already on her bullshit beforehand, trying to do it with the brother, which I was trying to think, but I couldn't remember in the movie. I was thinking maybe the grandpa was like the king at some point.
Yeah, well, it's got to be passed down. I mean, that's got to be why the movie is called Hereditary, because if you notice, there's a lot of male characters toward the end, and I'm guessing I wasn't paying that close attention, but I think everybody who was in that cult, I couldn't tell if they were real or not, but now it's pretty much confirmed that they are.
Yeah.
But all of them were at the funeral.
Okay.
So you don't notice. That's not something you're going to notice right away, but it's definitely all the people that are in that cult there at the end are definitely there during the funeral. Shit, where was I going with this? What were we talking about? I know. I was remembering details.
We were talking about whether or not the grandpa was the king.
Oh, okay. So grandpa's probably dead at this point.
Yeah.
So you have to pass that. You got to pass down the host. So if he's the host and she's the queen, essentially, I don't even know if she's a real person. You know, she could just be this demonic spirit living in this in her body, and it has to be passed down genetically, which is why we're in where we are today. So dad kills himself, brother kills himself because like I said, it has to be a male host, and she's, got to make that happen, and that's her goal, is to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So I definitely could see that for sure.
Yeah, that I'm still just trying to piece together everything about this movie, but so far, yeah, it seems like maybe the grandpa was like the original and it was just getting passed down. But I really liked the use of visual storytelling in this movie. I touched on it with like the the miniatures, how it's kind of telling a story all on its own if you're really looking at it.
Yeah.
There was some really like creepy moments, like the one miniature where it's Annie and her husband and they're sleeping and then the grandma's in the doorway.
Yeah.
I'm just like, even though that's like a miniature, I'm just so like, ugh.
The lighting.
Yeah.
What does it?
And then towards the end of the movie, like when we get to the payoff, like things just go bonkers. And I was like, yes, like the payoff for this movie I felt was really good.
Yeah, there's so much good setup that you don't even notice all the payoffs. You know what I just thought of? I feel like the miniatures almost go into that premeditated thing that I was talking about, where everything is already happening. So they're just the puzzle piece. They're being put together by, like, you can almost think of it like, so we got the mom putting together all the miniatures, but have you noticed in that opening shot, like we push in to that miniature. Mm-hmm. So it's like grandma, like this is like the world that they're in right now is her miniature, essentially.
Yeah, hey. I didn't even think about that.
Here we go. We're getting
in the rabbit hole. We're going down.
I love this rabbit hole.
Yeah. God, I really just wish I could see that movie again, like just really quickly.
Yeah. Let's just watch it like right now and just fast forward it and see if we can pay attention real good.
But so the payoff is where the movie really gets juicy and it just goes insane. There's so many great chilling moments. Especially, did you notice when Peter's laying in bed, you can't really see her at first. There's a really obvious moment where like the mom floats by in the background, but before that she's like all suspended in the fucking ceiling.
You know what? I had to, man, I got to stop doing this.
Yeah.
But I watched the Chris Stuckman review before I went and saw this, and he said there's a lot of things that you see or don't see, and you just got to look in certain places.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit. Now I'm just like looking for everything instead of just being surprised by it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn. And like her floating by was just like fucking eerie.
Yeah, just the way it was like a sideways dog paddle through the air.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Ew." But like as soon as I saw her in the corner, I was just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like that is so scary. And I usually watch most horror movies like that. I'll like look around and like try and see what's going on in the background. Great example of it done terribly would be the Bye Bye Man, which is a recent memory in my mind. There's literally like in the background in the Bye Bye Man, there's like giant black trench coats. Like people just have giant black hooded trench coats in their house. And you just see it and you're like, okay, I know the Bye Bye Man's going to appear there. And then he does like 50 freaking times. But I feel like this movie really handled those types of scenes really well.
Oh, absolutely. 'Cause you can definitely go completely wrong with hiding shit like that.
And at this point, the hiding shit in the background has really gotten popular again with like the Conjuring and Insidious. So it's almost getting tiresome at this point where you're just like, oh, scary thing in the background that you're not supposed to notice, but it's obviously there.
See, I feel like, okay, so one of the things that I really respected about this movie is that it definitely took its time. Like this movie severely feels long. Luckily, it's engaging enough to where you don't really notice it and it doesn't bother you so much. There's not a ton of music either. At least there's the music piece in the beginning for sure.
Yeah.
And all the music at the end. But throughout the middle, there's not a ton of music. And I feel like that was purposely done. But really getting to know this family and like really caring about their drama and just like all this shit going on in their life right now. Like all this is super relatable.
Right.
So it really makes you care about everything that's happening, and I think that helps add to the scary shit that's happening towards the end. Because normally, like, if I see something in the background, like, I haven't seen Bye Bye Man, but just take, like, your average...
I want you to watch it. It's amazing.
But anyway, take your average horror movie, and, like, they're just putting shit back there for a reason.
Right.
Or no reason, rather. But this movie, like, builds up to it. Like, it adds to the eeriness. Because, like, stuff like that, like, it definitely scares me. Like, all right, so the other night, like I said, I've been having a long week. And right before I was going to bed, like, I had all my lights shut off. And I look over at my desk, and I legitimately thought there was a tarantula on my desk.
Fuck that.
Yeah, and, dude, I was, maybe not a tarantula, but just, like, a huge-ass fucking spider. But, you know, all the lights are out, and, like, my mind is just projecting this spider on my desk, and that's and it freaks you out. So that's essentially kind of like what this movie's doing. Like, it's doing a good job at building everything up, so when these moments finally come, they're actually deserved, versus, oh, here we go, there's some spooky shit, and I guess I got to be scared at this point. Like, it's really terrifying at this point.
Yeah, and then later in that same scene, when you see her again in the corner, and you're like, oh, I see you this time, like, you're not scaring me, and then you see creepy naked old guy, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to be like, yeah, that doesn't scare me, and it's like, it's not supposed to, like, it's deliberately there to, like, be like, oh, now you see it, like, get scared, but that's not the true scare in this scene. And then there's just something, like, so unbelievably creepy about naked old people that just anytime there's naked old people in a movie, I'm just like, huh. And I it follows when the naked old man is like on the roof.
Yeah.
And it's just so unsettling because you don't think of like old people being naked or like willingly getting naked in front of people.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. And it just creeps me out to the core. So the minute the old people started showing up in this movie, I was like, I could like feel the like tears in my eyes because I was like, ugh, fuck.
So I tried to look up like why, because somebody brought this up on Reddit. Why do old people are just naked, or why are people just naked in cults? I guess it has something to do with being free with the nature.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes a little more sense for it instead of it just being, why the fuck are there just random naked people showing up?
It's also just like ingrained in our brains at this point to like when someone's naked, you're like, okay, something is wrong. Like, but humans are supposed to have clothes on. Like, so when you see like like if you saw a naked old man in your living room, you'd be like instantly like, okay, like something fucked up is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I feel like that's...
Well, I mean, if there's a naked person in your house that you don't know, that's...
Right.
Yeah, something's definitely wrong.
Right. At any point. But it's just like that extra added, like, okay, this person is willing to be naked right now. So like, what else are they capable of?
Yeah, no, that's you know what? And well, he freaked out, right? Peter,
Yeah.
didn't he freak out? But
Yeah.
after Charlie takes over, she's just like,
Well, right, because then he goes upstairs, finds Grandma's headless corpse, finds the rest of the old people hiding in the darkness,
yeah.
and then he jumps out that window and
And
dies.
that treehouse is a lot bigger than we originally thought.
That treehouse is fucking massive.
That's probably why they built it.
Holds like 25 people.
I wonder if Grandma built it.
Right?
She's like, I'm preparing for this day.
Oh, I'm building this for little Charlie. She's gonna love it.
She's gonna love it, and agree with my 25 naked friends.
Dude, like when you see the mannequin with Charlie's head on it and the crown, I was like, ooh, like that is fucked.
Yeah.
But so much gruesome imagery in this movie, and I'm not like a religious person either, so like movies that are just like blah, Satan is coming and he's real don't really like freak me out. But at the same time, like at the very end when they're chanting his name, I was just like ooh, like fucking hardcore chills, because it's just so unsettling, you know. You're like, I don't believe in this stuff, but in the realm of the movie, and I was so like into it.
It could happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like these worlds, if they are done well enough, it makes it feel real.
Crazy cults are real.
Yeah, crazy cults are definitely real. Like this stuff, like I'm not a huge spiritual person either, but there's always that part of my brain like, what if? And I feel like this is why this movie scared me so much, is because there's finally a movie out there where it's like all this weird shit that I don't believe in, but if I were to believe in it, because like if I see it, then I'll believe it kind of person.
Right.
And this movie is one of those movies that did everything that it would take for me to believe some shit like this would happen.
True.
That's this movie. 100%.
Yeah. It was something else.
Yeah. Going back to her floating up on the ceiling, I'm glad that I thought that she was going to like come down and like tackle him.
Right.
And I'm glad that she didn't.
Nope.
But why do you think that she was just like chilling up in the corners for both those parts?
Well, I think the second time was definitely for misdirection. And I think that she was just maybe following him for whatever reason. She gets possessed by someone.
Yeah,
and
she just suddenly gets possessed, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, she lights her husband on fire when she throws the notebook into the flames, and then it's just for a split second you just hear a voice, and it's just like, Annie. And then her face like changes.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, it's very...
Maybe I'm just so like caught up with the fire that I'm just like...
It was literally like a split second. Like you hear her, like a demon voice say Annie, and then her face changes.
Wow.
So I don't know who it was, because it wasn't really explained. Like, and I don't think it was the grandmother, because that really wouldn't make much sense. But
maybe
I guess
it was a pagan.
It could be. I guess. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Either way, though, when it gets to the next part, when she's sawing her fucking head off with those strings...
I didn't know that she was sawing her head off. I thought she was just, like, stabbing herself in the neck.
Dude, seriously, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it, dude. What?
I have, like...
Chills?
No, I have, like, fucking, like, a breeze blowing on my neck. There's no vents behind me, are there?
No. They're the only vents right there.
Fuck.
Oh, wait, no, there's vent right
but
there.
I mean, like, it's behind my neck, bro. Fuck, dude. We
Paranoid.
can't even talk about this movie now.
Like, when I was sitting in the theater, and she's just sawing her head off.
There it is again. You can't talk about it.
Dude, it's because you're getting creeped out, bro.
I guess so. Fuck.
Because that scene is so fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Just the face that, like, she's, like, kind of, like, smiling like she's enjoying it, and you're just like, fuck out of here, dude.
Like that, and it's... Like, I thought she was stabbing herself in the neck repeatedly.
Yeah.
But I think she was cutting off her head with razor wire.
Right. Yeah. She had like wire or something, and she was... Yeah. And then when she starts speeding up and you're just like...
Yeah.
You're like... if I was Peter right now, I would have checked out a long time ago.
Yeah.
I would have been Dip City, sprinting down that road.
I feel like him killing himself was pretty much his only out of everything that was happening. I think he probably, I'm sure that its fall like severely sucked, but I feel like that was the only way out for him.
Yeah.
Like there's no, like everybody's just so fucked in this movie. Like there's no way out of anything that happened.
Yep. It's just one bad event after another. Downward spiral.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought the movie was very good. I definitely wouldn't... I don't think it's better than The Witch or It Comes at Night or even Green Room, but...
I don't know if those are really comparable, though. Like, I could see you comparing this movie to The Witch. I don't know about if it comes... Are you just talking about A24?
I'm just talking about movies? Like A24 horror in general. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't really compare them, but I still think it's a really good movie. But I still think that those three, in terms of like A24 horror, are still better.
Okay.
Just because there were some things in Hereditary that were a little weird. Some of the like humor, you know, like I mentioned it in our review on
I remember
Out of
you
the
guys
Basement.
talking about. I don't remember there really being any humor.
But it was like situational humor, like just like little things just to make you kind of like, oh, like do a quick little laugh, you know.
Okay.
But I felt like it was intentional. But sometimes it didn't land.
Okay. I don't really remember those, but I mean, it could have happened.
We gotta watch the movie again.
Yeah.
So what else
I don't really remember anything bothering me per se. I remember Justin saying that he didn't really care too much for the length. He thought that it ran on a little too much.
I thought the pacing was perfect.
Yeah, I had no problem with the pacing. Like, I don't know. I think maybe the witchcraft stuff maybe turned me off a little bit just because that's not something I'm super into. But here I am having a fucking 45-minute plus discussion with you about this, so I guess I do like it a little bit.
Yeah. Though I definitely like witchcraft stuff. It like I don't believe in it, but there's just something that's so like
it's different
plausible.
When it's done well, like this movie, yeah, it's definitely a different case.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning of this, I don't even know if I can call it a review at this point, a discussion. I don't feel like people are going to appreciate this movie right away. I feel like it's going to be one of those things that people are going to look back on 5-10 years from now, and it's just going to be like, I don't know about Shining or Exorcist level or anything like that, but I feel like it's going to have like a huge cult following eventually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that's the case because I don't know if you noticed, but in our showing, 4 people walked out and did not
notice that
and did not come back. Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
Probably about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour into the movie, 4 people, like two people got up and left, and then right after them, 2 more people got up and left too, and they just never came back.
I was like watching these people in front of me who just kept getting up, and thankfully they got up to use their phone in the hallway.
Oh yeah, but I saw that person.
Man,
I was like,
it annoys the hell out of me when people get up and out of their seats so much. I can't remember what movie I watched recently where that happened, but people were just getting up like every 5 or 10 minutes, you know, for something, and it just annoyed the shit out of me.
I just wish people would like do a little bit of research, because you see a lot of these comments where people are like, they'll comment on like A24's Facebook page and be like, oh, The Witch sucks, It Comes at Night was stupid, blah blah blah, Hereditary probably is going to be the same thing, it's going to be stupid. Like no, duh, like it's not stupid, it's just like horribly mismarketed. And that, I feel like, kind of sucks about A24, is they always make their horror movies seem really scary when they're not.
Well, they kind of need to. I mean, they're such a small distributor. They got to get people to come into their theaters,
True.
Especially when this movie is their biggest release to date.
But then they invite those kinds of like toxic people that don't realize this movie is going to be like a slow, more like artful movie, and they're just kind of like, oh, that was stupid. Like, I thought I was going to be... Like, they want Insidious, but then they show up to an art house horror movie. Yeah. And I just wish that people could do a little bit more research. Maybe look into what movie you want to watch just a little bit more so that you're not wasting your time. If you don't like those kinds of movies, it's okay if you don't. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but what annoys me is when people feel the need to go on like A24's Facebook page and be like, these movies are stupid and blah blah blah, they're boring, and it's kind of, you just kind of want to be like, well, it's pretty much because you just don't get it.
Yeah.
But that's that's incredibly pretentious, but it's most of the time it's just kind of the case. But I also feel like the marketing doesn't help any of these movies. Like, did you see the Twitter thing that
The
A24
pulse thing?
Yeah, where it was like watching Hereditary can burn 2,000 calories, and it had like the pulses, and I was just like
I will say that
get real.
I really do feel like this is their most mainstream movie that's come out so far.
True.
So I feel like this is gonna. All right, so if we're getting into more of my reviewy kind of things that I've been doing in the past, who do I think will like this movie? You definitely have to if you like art house horror movies, you'll definitely love this. I feel like I don't know what part of the mainstream audience is going to like this movie. I don't want to say everybody, because everybody's not going to like this.
No way.
But I can definitely say, as far as an A24 horror movie, if you're going off of just The Witch and It Comes at Night, this story is a lot less ambiguous than both of those movies.
Yeah, you get a lot more answers in this story. There's a lot more payoff as well in Hereditary. He's like, the payoff in The Witch is like a couple minutes. Like a literally like couple minute long scene is like what you've been waiting for. At least in Hereditary, you get like a solid 25 minutes at the end of like pure horror.
And like I said, this movie is definitely about Charlie becoming the pagan or whatever this demon or the king of hell is.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Right.
That's what this whole movie's about, and it delivers.
Again, props. I love when like the good guys don't win. When like there's just too many movies that come out where it's always just happy ending, the good guys win. I like to see a movie where it's like, no, like they couldn't prevent this shit from happening no matter what, because they're not superhumans. They're just regular people thrown into a fucked up situation and are just like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And again, it like adds to the realism, because like Peter would have no clue, like exactly how he acted at the end of the movie. Probably how most people would act, just running around screaming and crying, and then eventually jumping out of a window because you're like, well, this is it.
Yep. I remember you guys talking about Alex Wolff's like crying game.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like it was that off.
It was just like it was like one specific scene. He really was just like and I was just like, what are you doing? Like,
was it when he was calling her mommy? Like when he's just like so hysterical that he's literally calling his mom mommy. No. Like when Toni Collette is just like banging her fucking head.
Dude, that part was so scary.
It was.
It was so unnatural, like how fast it was. And you're like, oh, she's probably banging her fist. And then you look and she's banging
on the fucking ceiling, banging her head on the wall. Or on the ceiling. Fuck.
I think it might have been when Charlie died, maybe. Like one of the scenes after Charlie dies, he like is crying because he's upset about Charlie, but it just comes off really weird. It's not really that big of a complaint, considering most of the movie he is crying and he's doing a great job, and I'm buying it completely. Yeah. So
I really felt like the performances in this movie were very genuine. Mm-hmm. Like I tried to put myself in their situation, since, like I said, I feel like this movie is super relatable, and we've all been there with this sort of grief at one time or another. Yeah. So you can kind of, nobody has ever, I assume that you've never killed your sister before, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't have a sister, but I've never killed one of my siblings before. But, I have dealt with death and death within, like, close people to me.
Right.
So, like, if you're putting yourself in that position, especially with, could you, like, I really bought his performance when he killed her. Like, you could just see in his eyes, like, what he was feeling at this point.
Like, he knew he did it. I liked that they're like, he doesn't turn around and look, and the camera doesn't like pan over. Like, he's like,
you got to confirm it.
Like he knows, and he's just like,
I don't know what to fucking do.
Like, I can't look. Yeah. And he's like, and the camera like pans up to the mirror, to like the rear view mirror, and then pans back down really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I really liked that they showed that, because I feel like, again, if that was something that happened in real life, like, would you really want to turn around and see that shit, or would you just be like, fuck, you know?
I think it was kind of fucked up. I'm not saying this in like a bad way, but I think it's kind of fucked up when the mom was like, you don't ever take responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, what's he, like 17 at this point, maybe?
Yeah, he's
like,
in high school.
How do you take responsibility for killing your sister at that age, unintentionally.
Right.
It's not like he was some psychopath.
Yeah.
He was just like one of us going to a high school party at this point, and he just accidentally killed his sister by trying to prevent killing them both.
Yeah.
From running over this animal that could have, killed them both at this point, which I'm sure was the intention of Grandma's master plan.
But of course he fires back with who made her go to the party?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, man. Thanksgiving clapback for sure.
Yeah, that was a little roast session right there.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah, so.
It reminded me a lot of the, in the Babadook. The mom's freaking out on the kid, you know? I'm just like, I'm sure there was probably a lot of inspiration from that movie into this movie, because this movie almost looked like just a straight Babadook inspired.
Yeah,
this movie's
somewhat.
Gonna be too much like the Babadook,
but then it
Luckily,
wasn't at all.
It wasn't. Yeah, so
except for both of the movies I feel like have the overall theme of grief.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's fine.
That's it pretty much. But there's tons of horror movies that are about grief. So Alex, do you have anything else you'd like to say on Hereditary?
I'm going to say that I'm definitely going to buy this movie when it comes out.
Oh yeah, this is a day one Blu-ray for me.
I am going to watch it a lot.
Yeah.
For the next forever.
I can't wait to dig into it. It's another movie for me. I love The Witch. I love It Comes at Night. Those are movies that you can watch over and over again and pick up something new every single time. And I think that Hereditary definitely adds into that. And I love that. I love a movie that actually has legitimate rewatch value.
Oh yeah.
Other than purely for entertainment.
Yeah, this movie, there's so much good stuff in it. Cannot recommend it enough. Definitely go see it in the theater. I can say it's probably one of the most eerie things I've ever seen in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've cringed a lot in this movie, and I never do that in scary movies. Yep. Never. Just because I've seen so much.
I definitely echo exactly what you're saying. I enjoyed the movie a lot. I definitely recommend you see it if it's something that you're interested in. Don't go see it if you don't like slow burn movies, because you're going to be disappointed, honestly.
Yeah, I actually went with a friend yesterday who's not really into scary movies. I didn't really want to ask what he thought of it because I didn't want him to kill my vibe.
Yeah.
I was just so I was silently hyped. Because I saw Nate after the movie and I didn't want to say too much just because I hate having my vibe killed right after I see a movie, especially if I'm super hyped, because I will go ape shit on you.
Right.
At least I have, I'm like that meme kid who's just holding his breath and his fucking face is just red.
Veins,
That is me after I watch every movie that I like, because I'm just I can't talk to anybody who doesn't like this movie right now.
Or if it's just Arrival.
Oh,
so...
Well, I'm willing to fight no matter what. Yeah. But especially after... if you told me you didn't like Arrival after I watched it, I would have legitimately...
I probably would be dead
burst
right now.
Into tears. I would have just fucking God damn it, Nate! Who the fuck are you? It would have been bad.
Nice.
Because I was so fucking hyped after I watched Arrival for the first time. I told my friend, I think this is one of the greatest movies that was ever made.
I think I had tears in my eyes, but it was because I was so bored.
Yeah. So we're not going to fight about this again, guys.
Sredy, if you had to give Hereditary a score, how many out of...
I was about to say...
would you give it?
I'm going to give it... out of 10.
How many was that?
That was 9.
I wasn't counting. For the sake of not repeating that bit, I'm going to give it an 8 point out of... So.
Nice.
There we go. 8 point. So there you go. You have our review of Hereditary. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and hit the dusty trail. We're going to get out of here, get out of your guys' hair. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed our review of Hereditary. Of course, if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to follow us on all sorts of social media so you can stay up to date for when we're posting new episodes. This is a bi-weekly podcast, so we post once every 2 weeks. Also, you can check us out on iTunes, the Low Side Podcast, Google Play, which apparently is being finicky right now.
Yep.
So
I'll be looking into it.
If you are an avid Google Play user and you're still listening right now, help us out.
Give me a link or something.
Yeah, like try and help us out here because we both have iPhones and Google Play's on iPhone, but we just use the built-in podcast service.
Yeah, so I mean, I can listen to it.
Of course,
but I want the Android people to listen to it too.
Right. Rate and review our podcast on iTunes, please. We're begging you. I'm gonna start sending out money in the mail to random reviewers. So hey, maybe start doing that. I'm not actually gonna do that.
You know what I'll do? I will start giving out signed podcasts if you guys review us.
A digital signature.
Yep.
You could, and it's like a Photoshop image, so you can put it on whatever the hell you want and just Photoshop our signatures on. That's a great idea.
But it's going to be pixelated as fuck.
I didn't mean to blow into the mic like that. That's bad etiquette. Of course.